Hi, this is Omar Sultan with another Blogger Tech Minute. I'm here again with Brian and Ernesto, and we're here to give you a little rundown on the stuff we found cool and interesting at today's show. I'd like to start with you since you're going to chat a little bit about the keynote.
Yeah, so I'll take the thing that was sort of front and center this morning. So Paul Maritz gave a fantastic keynote. Ernesto's going to talk about some of the numbers. I think for me the most interesting takeaway, and I heard from a lot of people as we were walking out, was Paul has a tendency sometimes to get kind of philosophical. I think he did a really good job of sort of laying out where things were going. I think he did a really good job of sort of showing that if you're not starting to think about things a little bit different, whether it's how you develop applications, how you look at your infrastructure, what your business can do, you're kind of getting behind the curve. So what the stuff he touched on was really, really relevant to all the product announcements coming.
And I think you're right. There was a good empirical aspect where you present a lot of good numbers in terms of where the market's going, growth, traction.
Showing real customers, real numbers, big numbers.
Those kinds of things. Yep, absolutely. What was your take on the...
So it was a really big day for us. So some of the numbers that Brian was talking about was we have for the first time in 2009 the number of virtual machines that were being deployed by customers outdid the number of physical servers. So the idea that virtualization is still something that's being done in Q&A or in test dev or very small projects and it's not mainstream with the customers, that's shifted, and we expect that trend to continue. So the number was over 10 million virtual machines were expected to be deployed this year by customers. So it's now a standard thing. The old way of doing one server, one app is long gone. Customers have found that. And then, to help out with that journey, we also made several announcements around how customers who are 10%, 15, 20, or 30, or 50%, all the way to 100% virtualized, can benefit from these cloud providers through the service providers with the announcement of a VCloud Director. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a management aspect of how you can manage your internal private cloud and the public hybrid cloud that blends when you start connecting your private cloud with service providers.
Yep. I actually thought that was a very interesting piece that pulled in, because traditionally, VMware is associated with this private cloud message, and it was very clear, that's just a piece of the vision for the company. And there's a reach out to the service provider side, and I think for customers that's important because that's really the holistic solution. It's from a Cisco perspective, our position is that most customers will end up at a hybrid cloud, where it'll be a mix of private cloud, legacy infrastructure and public cloud offerings. So I thought that was very cool. The piece that stuck out for me, and I think just underpinned by all the products that were announced, was we see this progression of virtualization from purely for cost control TCO management to kind of parity or surpassing functionality delivered by physical infrastructure to really being a lever for moving both IT and the business forward. And I think that's one of the things we share in common as companies, is that vision of IT being really a tool to make the business better. From my perspective, near and dear to my heart, we had a couple of announcements around virtual security gateway, and essentially we took what we did with the 1000V in terms of that management paradigm, integration with vCenter, and at the end of the day, really integration with, I still want to call it Redwood, VCloud Director, and integration with vShield, and delivered a really virtualized firewall functionality for a VM perspective. More detail than I can go in here, but you look at the Cisco blog. There'll be a blog post from me tomorrow that digs into it with some detail. But I think the broader message is we're starting to do more sophisticated things, reflected by a richer feature set and a richer set of products. And I think at the end of the day, that's really the net message that I've gotten from the first couple of days.
It's also the we announced 2 acquisitions today and some additional products, but really it's the manageability, because of physical and virtualized assets. Now that you're talking not about 10 or a couple hundred virtual machines in your traditional IT environment, and then also with the announcement of View 4.5, our virtual desktop initiative solution, is you start managing virtual desktops in a regardless of end user device. So had some great demos on how your desktop would look on an iPad versus an Android, and how the different IT folks within an organization would become producers for their end users versus a hindrance to the business. And I think really what we're seeing is, specific to some of the announcements around and some of the progress and the adoption we've seen around the UCS platform, is customers are starting to look at new ways of how to do cloud, and they're actually looking at manageability as a key aspect of that. And it's really interesting, the reason I think why some early adopter customers have gravitated and done what they've done with UCS is because it actually allows them to do manageability in the new way that needs to be done versus the traditional way. So I think that is another one of the reasons why there's a lot of interest. I mean, Ed Bugnion had a sold-out keynote super session today where he kind of talked about what's coming down the path, and that was one of the key things he focused on. Yeah,
and I think that was one of the things that was common between Paul and Ed's sessions, and kind of where our companies play well together is things like View 5, drive things like UCS and VBlock saying, hey, we're doing something cool. We want infrastructure that's really built to support these types of applications, this type of infrastructure. I know we've been chatting a lot. Do you have any, and we're hitting time, so any final thoughts?
No, I mean, I think, I think the big takeaway for me from whether it was Paul or Ed or talking to customers is they like the fact that a lot of these dots are now sort of connecting, right? Before it was a little bit of product here, a little bit of product there. And the other thing I hear from them all the time is they're like, I love that you keep giving me more and more transparency into what's going on, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. I get this great benefit, but the more and more transparency you give me, the more ways that I can do it. They love that stuff. So that's the big takeaway I took from today.
Good day.
Great point. Yeah. Thanks, guys, and this is Omar signing off.